saying you walk in, you're like, I don't know anything. You're going to have to show me. And I'm like, do we have to punch each other?
Welcome to this episode of Voice Podcast, the podcast for students by students. And today we have two very special guests. You will see them a lot on the Voice Podcast. They are Tiffany and Alisa, who will be my co-host as well as me. I'm co-hosting. We're going to learn more about them, what they do as students, and also what are their hobbies and how do they find Kingston, and how has their journey been before coming at LCC. And starting directly, I will let you guys introduce yourself. Alisa, pretty much about you. So which program are you in? What do you want to achieve with it?
Okay, so my name is Alisa. I'm a first year student in Biotech program here at SLC. What do I want to achieve? I'm not sure about that. Because, anything can happen in the future, right?
Sure.
Right now, the dream is to stay in academia, to get a degree, and then maybe just stay here. Or maybe I'm going to find the lab job so entertaining, so I'm going to stick with that. I don't know.
How about you, Tiffany? Which program are you in, and what are your goals with it? And what do your dream to achieve with that program?
Well, I'm in the second year of the Bachelor of Science-Nursing program here at SLC. I'm not really sure either what I want to do at the end. Nursing is one of those careers that's so vast. The options are pretty much endless. So I have thought in the past that I might like to work as a nurse in corrections. I might want to work in the perioperative surgery department. I might want to teach. I don't really know. There's just so many options in nursing. So I'm excited to kind of see what paths are out there and what I can do. And I might hop from place to place to place. Who knows? Get to try everything.
And by hopping from place to place, do you mean like switching to Kingston to other places? Or do you love staying in Kingston?
I am a homebody. My whole family lives in Kingston, so probably I'll end up staying in Kingston for the most part. When I say hop around, I mean like from service to service. So I might do nursing in the hospital on the floor for a little while, and then I might work in the community for a bit, and then I might teach. Who knows? It's a big wide world out there.
And are you from Kingston originally, or you moved? Yeah.
So I am a born and raised Kingstonian. So I don't go anywhere. I'm boring.
Well, we are all boring in some ways, and we're all the most interesting person in the world. To some, it's all in the perception. So being from Kingston, Alisa and me, I'm pretty new to Kingston. Alisa, how long have you been in Kingston?
Almost a year.
Almost a year, so I'm the newest one here. So I just arrived in April. So my spots has been mostly downtown, Kingston Center, Kataraki Center, and a bit of the parks, Memorial Park, Lake Ontario. That's it. And you, Tiffany, being from Kingston, what are the spots, hidden gems, which you love around Kingston, which normal new students wouldn't know about?
Okay. That's an interesting question. For outdoor stuff, I actually love Lemoyne's Point. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's sort of it's called Lemoyne's Point.
Lemoyne's Point.
Yeah. So it's out sort of on the west end, and it's a beautiful, well-maintained little walking trail, but it has biking paths and it has more challenging trails, but it's really family friendly and it's really nice and pretty out there. So if you're looking for somewhere to just walk around and go, it's really nice. The KMP trail system, if you like bicycling or if you like walking and hiking, it extends everywhere. It goes up north out of Kingston. So those are some great outdoor activities. The Memorial Center hosts all kinds of really cool events. They had the fall fair there a couple weeks ago. So they always have so much interesting stuff going on at the Memorial Center as well. The Leon Center, I think it's still called the Leon Center.
Leon Center, it's still Leon Center.
They changed the name a lot. Yeah. They have a lot of concerts and things, not just sports, which is really cool. interesting fact about me, I've never been to a concert in my life. Like, I know that I look like the kind of person that would probably end up at concerts, but I've never been to one, and that's one of my biggest regrets. So I'm gonna have to fix that soon. Let me think. I don't know. A lot of the like really nice shopping is downtown. Like the really small sort of intimate stores are downtown, which is nice. So you've kind of already mentioned that, and a lot of people do hang out downtown. But I think there is stuff to be seen out west.
You know, like downtown, I've been mostly a pub person.
Yeah.
And so is there any particular shop, like, we're not associated with anyone, we're not promoting anyone else. So can you mention like free shops which you like, so that we don't particularly...
Sure. So there's a game store downtown called Minotaur, and they have like board games and kind of nerdy stuff, like accessories and things, crafty stuff. So it's kind of a multi-purpose store, but it's really cool if games and things are what you're into. I like Modern Primitive for clothing and stuff. They have some really interesting, unique pieces of clothing there, which is really cool. And a third one, oh gosh, I don't actually shop downtown that often. If you're looking for like coffee shops and stuff.
Oh, I love the coffee shops.
The Grocery Basket. I used to work there, disclaimer. But they have really good coffee and snacks. So
my favorite is Sans Café, because obviously the owners are French, so I get to practice my French there every time I go. So I just love the homebodiness of, you know, like speaking French again, you know. So because I kind of miss it here in Kingston, because practically nobody or very few people speak French, so it's kind of cool to go every Sunday. It was my ritual during the first semester. Every Sunday I would go there and go to Sans Café and have an amazing coffee. But also there's Craves Coffee, which was the first cafe I went in Kingston, and I do love like the spicy chai latte. It's very specific. I like it hot, so I'm not the kind of person that would have a specific order, but this is my most specific order. Do you have a specific order of coffee? Which you...
Caramel latte, that's it.
Caramel latte, and you?
I do love a caramel latte. At the risk of sounding stereotypical, as a like spooky Halloween girl, I love me a pumpkin spice latte. I'm like a big fan of a traditional pumpkin spice latte.
It's just lovely. And from Kingston, so what are some slangs, you know, mannerism and habits which are unique to Kingston people, which we should know as students?
That's so interesting. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that because I grew up around it, and so I'm just used to it. I wouldn't even really notice it. You guys probably notice more than I do. If we have like weird mannerisms here in Kingston, I don't know.
I wouldn't say weird, like, well, no, it will push a lot of dislikes button on it, but anyway, so there's a lot of stuff which I still like trying to grasp, you know, like wearing caps indoors. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's a Canadian thing a lot of the time, like wearing hats inside.
Yeah, you know, like another cowboy hat, but basically, you know, having a normal cap. Like, why so many people, so many guys, or even girls, I see caps indoors. You know, like for me, it's not in my culture, so that's one of the reasons. I'm like, why do so many people wear that indoors? So
I think it is just kind of a cultural thing here. It's like a style choice to wear a hat, and then taking it off inside is like kind of ruins the aesthetic, I think, for some people. But I think people like it too, as just it's a way that you can kind of hide yourself. Yeah, and I don't know that that's the vast majority, but I think it happens.
And one also like which was pretty unique when I came, and I mentioned this in the first episode, was saying thank you to every bus transit driver after you exit the ride. This was amazing to me. Like, you know, there's a human behind the service also, so I think it just feels amazing, you know?
Yeah, I do love that. Like saying thank you to your service workers. Yeah, especially on the bus. You know, everybody walks off and they're like, thank you. Yeah. I think it's fun. It's not something that I ever would have really noticed that we do if you hadn't pointed it out, actually, because it's just something we do all the time, right? We're raised to do it. If you don't, you're kind of seen as rude, which isn't great because it's a cultural thing, and a lot of people come from different cultures.
Holding the door also
really?
is part of a culture, apparently. Yeah, I hold the door. Like, no, well, it's not that I will hold, I will let everyone go in. So basically, if you're behind me at the entrance, I will hold the door, then it's your turn to hold the door for the next person. Yeah. That's another thing which I've noticed also. Like, people do hold the door for me. So, yeah, I feel very nice. Those are little things which forms part of your day, which makes it amazing. And how about you, Alisa? What are the differences which you noticed when you came to Canada and Kingston, like, surprise you?
Well, yeah, first of all, the thing with thank you in the bus,
Yeah.
I was so surprised. um, Also, the traffic lights for pedestrians were so confusing. The flashing red hand,
Yeah.
wow. Everything red and flashing means stop, don't move
Yeah.
for me. And then people are still crossing the road. And I was, wow, the first couple of days in Kingston after the quarantine, I was lost.
I'm not surprised. That sounds really confusing. I never thought about stuff like that.
Really confusing.
It is actually, now that I think about it. Like, when I see the stop, is it like flashing me that there's 5 seconds left? Or should I stop? Like, me too, I was like, here. So now when I think about it, it's like, and also now there's various crossroad as well where cars, like, you can walk at the same time and cars will be driving into the direction which you should cross. So I'm like, is the driver letting me cross, or do I have a priority, or how does this work? When I know I have a priority because I walk, so yeah, basically that's it. And how long have you been in Canada so far, Alisa?
Almost a year. So I came here at the beginning of November last year.
November last year?
Yeah.
And how has your journey been so far? You've been in Kingston for the whole year, or you've moved around places?
No, I've pretty much stayed in Kingston.
And so how did you feel like, before coming to Canada, that, hey, this is a decision which I'm going to take? And how did you feel about it when you were in that picture of your suitcase at the airport, going through the customs, coming to Canada?
Well, the good thing is I'm not alone. I'm here with my parents.
Okay.
That's a good thing. I don't remember how I felt when I left my home there, because I had a plan. I needed to visit my friend at another city, and then I had to meet with my parents at the airport in another city. So I don't remember my feelings, but I do remember how I felt the week before that.
Yeah.
Because that was horrible. Because I felt like everything I know about this life, like how does it work, how everything works around me, and I just leave everything behind, and then I won't know nothing, just nothing. So like that's a whole new chapter.
And so for you, like, starting this new chapter, how has chapter 1 of the first year been for you?
That was also kind of thought, because first of all, we had quarantine for 2 weeks, so I didn't like walk around the places, and also then I was studying online pretty much the whole year until May, so I didn't contact with any people. Pretty much the majority of time I've been in Kingston, and that was hard as well.
That sounds so lonely. I'm so sorry.
It was so lonely.
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine like how that would feel.
Yeah, that felt bad.
Have you been able to make some connections now that things are reopened?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm so happy. I can again meet people in person. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, for me, this seems so, like, because I came in April and things were still back to normal. And I had the chance to come in January, actually. And for some personal reasons, I decided not to come. But also it was a good way to also wait for the whole, like, online classes to finish and just come back in person for the summer. So I don't know, like, how students felt, actually, like how you both guys felt just studying online fully, and also for you being in a new country and unable to actually meet your classmates or even to meet with locals, which I love to do for myself, going out, meet people. And for me, I thought of that feeling and I wouldn't want that. So, but I admire you all guys, even like in the midst of a pandemic, taking a step for your life. And that's very big. It's a very big achievement, Alisa, for you and your family to move here in the middle, when I guess 1 year ago November was still like, oh, what's going to happen anyways with rules. And that's a lot of courage, and you did it together as a family, and that's a big clap for that. as well, and it's really motivating. And now that things are back to normal, mostly, even if it's not, do you have any places around Kingston which you love? Yeah.
I think I have a couple. The
Mhm.
first one is Everett Point Park. It's a tiny park on the north of city.
Mhm.
It's like super small. It's one
Yeah.
bench and that's it. But it has a lake view,
Mhm.
and it's so quiet and so peaceful and it's so pretty. The sunsets, wow. So this one, and also I think Rocky Little Creek Conservation Area. It's a little like it's not in the Kingston.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Limoine Conservation
Yeah,
area.
I think that one is a little bit north too, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's super pretty. It was, I think, the first place we actually visited when we moved to Canada.
Mhm.
When we moved to Kingston, we were like,
Yeah.
okay, where are we going? Let's
Yeah.
go to see some nature, and it was nice. You can feed birds there.
It all seems cool. I'm transitioning more like to a more chill kind of lifestyle, and I can relate to you to what you're saying. You know, just having a bench, watching the lake, it's so peaceful for me. Like I go to McDonald Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to downtown, so there's that bench where you can sit. And I was working on my assignments there, but I could see the water spot, seeing people happy, like water skiing the thing, and it was just lovely, seeing the lake, the birds flying in herds all around. It's a very light breeze also compared to Lake Ontario Park where the breeze is kind of strong. This one has a very gentle breeze, just enough. It's still like you being in Canada now, Alisa. Is there something which you miss from home that you would love to bring?
Maybe like the structure of a city. I used to live in more European like
Yeah.
cities where you can actually go to big mall and it's might be in downtown or like closer to living area. Not you have to go to this like now I live close to Guide Rocket Center. That's nice. But before that I was living closer to downtown, so I had to take a bus. And this is also one of the points. So you have to either take a bus or have a car. And it's also not super convenient because I was used to just walk a lot. And here, it's not as easy
It
as
is.
it can be.
Yeah, like I during summer again, it's very different. I walked for like from the cinema complex in the north, like which is north downtown. Like I
Mhm.
don't know the area. It's and I walked till home. It was like 1 hour 15 minutes back home. But again, I like it when you're with friends. It's fine. The 1 hour doesn't look like 1 hour, but if you're alone and walking, yeah, it can be pretty much
Yeah.
daunting. And now we're going to know a little bit more about you as a person. Like, what do you love to do? What's your personal hobbies? And Tiffany, I guess you're a person of many hobbies. Like when I met you, you do so many things. I'm like, everybody has 24 hours in a day, but how do you do that? Roll the list of.
So yeah, I do have a lot of hobbies. I like to try lots of new different things, and then I tend to love everything that I try. So then I have way too many things to do. So I do Muay Thai, which is a style of kickboxing. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is similar to like wrestling. I am in a medieval reenactor society. I used to sing in a choir, and then unfortunately the pandemic kind of like shut that down, which is a little unfortunate. I also just love doing stuff like that. Like I'm part of the podcast. I'm the vice president of the Nursing Student Society here at St. Lawrence. Yeah, I have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot of like smaller hobbies within the other hobbies as well.
Yeah.
Like if you got me started on the SCA, which is the medieval reenactors thing, it just I have like 10,000 hobbies within that one hobby. So I just love trying new things. I like new experiences. And yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that I like to do. I mean, I like to hike as well. It's a little harder these days to get out anywhere nice to hike. But I do like doing that. Yeah, that's pretty much that.
And it's coming more to hiking. Now I have a question, which is like, how are the seasons of hiking? Can you still hike in winter? Are there differences between summer?
Some of the parks are open for wintertime hiking, but
Yeah.
most of them are not because it's really difficult to maintain any of the hiking trails when there's snow and mud and slush and it's cold. And so usually the hiking season for the majority of the parks in Ontario closes like Thanksgiving, so mid-October, just because then it gets too cold and wet and dangerous at that point. But there are a few ones where you can go and do winter camping and you can do winter hiking on the trails.
And now speaking like of Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like how did it all started for you?
Okay, so about a year ago, I guess it was August of last year, my husband and I decided that we needed to do something together to get a little bit more physically active. We had spent a lot of time inside, unfortunately, with the pandemic. You just couldn't really go anywhere or do anything. We didn't really have any physical activities that we enjoyed doing. And I don't like running on a treadmill. You know, I find that really boring. I have to be engaged with whatever I'm going to be doing as physical activity. So I looked around online and thought, like, what kind of activities can I do that I might enjoy? And found the Grizzly Gym, which is where I go.
Gym.
And they offer Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try this Muay Thai. That sounds really cool. Like, I've always wanted to try kickboxing. And at first it was so hard. It kicked my butt so hard, but I stuck with it and I love it. It makes me feel strong and like totally badass. And I love that. And then I would say it was about January where I decided to try jiu-jitsu as well. I was always a little intimidated by jiu-jitsu. You're in very, very close proximity with other human beings at that point. Like I can punch you from a couple feet away, but jiu-jitsu's not that way. But it turns out I really love that. I don't know, do you guys play chess?
Last time I played was like 10 years ago, maybe. So.
We joke and we call Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like chess with people because you're basically having to think about what you're going to do in response to the other person's moves at all times. It's also, we call it murder yoga or folding clothes while the people are still inside. So there's some pretty funny jokes that we make about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I love it. It's really interesting. It's a physical exercise, but it's also a thought exercise, and I like that about it.
And where's the Grizzly Gym actually? So if students are interested to go, like, how do they do like only those two martial arts, or they do
so right now they only do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. It's up in the West End, just sort of in Catwoods, which is, do you know where Walmart is? Yeah, it's sort of in the neighborhood of Walmart there for anybody that's not super familiar when I say Catwoods. So yeah, they're out in that end. There are other studios around. I know there's one actually here really close to the school that does Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai, and it's Triskel. It's on King Street in Portsmouth Village. So there are a few different places you can go depending on where you live, but they're both really good, like physical activity. You will sweat in the hour that you're there. You will die. But it's great. I love it.
It's a form, well, any form which gets your heart rate beating is a form of cardio, but I love the intensity and the impact, the endurance that comes with it of practicing a sports. That's what's lovely about it. You know, we are with other people as well, so there's this feeling of, you know, competition as well, which is a bit like, you know, I don't know, how was the first session for you and your husband? You know, how was you like, oh, we're actually going to do this? How was it, the first session?
It was pretty anxiety inducing. You walk in, you're like, I don't know anything. You're going to have to show me. And I'm like, do we have to punch each other? But it's not mandatory that you fight against other people. It's really interesting because it's competitive, but it's also a big team sport, I guess. Because when you do drills, one person holds pads and the other person actually like kicks and punches, and so you're very much relying on another person to be where you need them to be at the time you need them to be there. So I mean, after the first class, we were both completely wiped out. We were like, oh God, I'm so tired. But it was so rewarding to know that you had finished something that high intensity. I was probably laid out for like a week after that, though. Like I was so sore for like a week after that. But I went back. Back, and I still go back. So that's the key, I guess. Make sure it's something that you love.
And what were the particular spots? Like, I guess like completing that first session was really a trigger for you to keep on continuing. And what keeps you going even till now?
So I mean, it's really good physical activity, but it's kind of my mental quiet time. I know that you both said that you like to go somewhere quiet and sit and watch the water.
Yeah.
I think if I was alone with my own thoughts for that long, it would be terrible for everyone.
Yeah.
I can't just sit in the quiet for very long. That's not really how I relax. So I like that I can go to Muay Thai and empty my mind of anything except what I'm doing right now. So it kind of provides me like a mental break from my very busy life and all the things that I'm always thinking about.
I just love the feeling that my whole body is being pushed to another level. It's just like, oh my god, am I able to do it? And when you do it, it's like a really satisfying. But also when you can't achieve it, it drags you a bit to reality. Oh, next time I'm going to do better. I'm going to reach 8 reps, maybe if I did only 4. So, and also to have the patience, to reach that level. For example, when I started still speaking kilos. It's like 30, like 80 kilos on the squats. Now I'm 150 kilos on the squats.
Wow.
So like it took years basically. And the first few months when I started working out was like, it was amazing to get that feeling. But then the little progress which you make with 2 kilos, 1 kilos you add, it's just satisfying to know that your strength is growing, and learning patience, learning to waiting for things to happen has been really a good thing about working out for me. And having music, like I love having music in my ears. I sometimes like dance to the tunes in the gym. I sing to the lyrics. I don't sing loud, but that. So I just go like this, and it's just fun. I just love the rush which you get in your body when working out. And what else do you have as hobbies? I heard like plants hate you, but you still have a garden.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have like a vegetable garden, and I think it went pretty well actually for somebody who usually kills plants.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a plant person. I love plants. I love the way they look. They hate me. So that's kind of the problem. I do have 2 indoor houseplants right now. One of them is a poinsettia that I received as a gift from somebody. And then unfortunately that person passed away shortly thereafter. And so I've been like literally giving all that I have to keep this poinsettia alive. And it's only like this big, but it's doing really well. I named him Charlie because when I got him, he looked like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. I don't know if you've ever seen Peanuts. But he had like just the central stalk and then like 4 sad looking little leaves, and it was really cute, so I called him the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And then I have a silver inch plant, so it's kind of like burgundy on the back of the leaves, and then the front of the leaves are green and silver.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen that? And it's like hanging, and I feel like it's going really well for somebody who's bad with plants. We'll see.
It is like that's so many hobbies, and we could talk about whole hour about what you do, Tiffany. But like Alisa, I think is someone like I sense is someone who is pretty intense into books, because on the previous podcast I didn't listen to like this question with Jaden. No, I didn't watch a document, but I read a book, and I was like, oh, so this is a book person for not watching but reading. So I can feel that you're a book person. Tell us about your fascination for books, Alisa.
Oh. That's an interesting question. I think I really love 1984. I love this book. I think I've read it like 3 times.
What is it all about? Like,
it's an anti-utopia. I'm not sure if it's a word in English.
Utopia?
Like anti-utopia.
Yeah. What's an anti-utopia? Now I'm getting into more questions. Because I don't know. If you guys know, thumbs up, press a like if you know what anti-utopia is.
So it's basically a book. It's like the worst possible scenario for a society. Wow. And it was all about dictatorship, about the government that's watching you, like every step you're making, and actually they're like watching your thoughts somehow.
Oh, so it's anti-authority. Like
probably.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It
cool.
Probably is. And there's I think that's the main plot of the book, and there's also kind of a love story.
Yeah.
But it's not it's not the main point of the book. So yeah.
So what fascinates you? What is it in that book that makes you read it 3 times? Like,
it's so kind of psychological. I love that this book makes me actually think about things. It's not like I just forget about everything and I'm just reading and I'm in this new whole world. And this book actually makes me think about it. And that's nice.
And like for me and Tiffany, what would you say? What could we learn from reading this particular book if we were to read it tomorrow? And what would you say that we should learn from it?
I'm not sure what you should learn from it, but I think you will learn how to kind of pay more attention on some details of the life around you, and sometimes it's
What details?
I don't know. It's just small details.
Yeah. For example, this podcast. Maybe we know what you want to watch, and I just produce what you want to watch.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I'm a spy, actually.
Oh my
Nobody
gosh.
knows where I come from.
Stop spilling all of our secrets,
Yeah.
Sean.
I'm looking at the camera in a creepy way without my eyes blinking, and pretty much. And is there like a book like other books which you are into? Which one are you reading right now?
I'm reading My Policeman right now.
My Policeman?
Yeah. There's a film coming up in the end of October by this book, so that's why I decided to read it now. So like before watching the film.
And do you usually how do you find books which you read and you found their movies? Are they very good or the movies are pretty bad, not reflecting?
It depends. I think last time I've read a book and then I watched the film. Well, actually, I first watched the film and then I read the book. It was Dune last fall, I think.
Excellent choice.
Thanks. I love the movie and I love the book, but they're kind of different.
Yeah. So are you usually the kind of person that watches the movie first and then reads the book, or the other way around?
I usually read a book first.
Yeah. What about you, Sean?
I've stopped reading books since my course started.
Oh.
I'm completely submerged by my new passion. I'm someone who's very intense when I start something. So, when I start something, I want to be very good at it. So it means sacrificing some stuff which you do. So I stopped reading at night because I'm completing assignments. So I kept the working out. I left the book out. So
yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, but you still have to make sure you do things
but
for yourself.
Those books which I have on the shelf right now, which I want to read in, is like The Rational Optimist. It's a book which I found at Value Village 2 weeks ago. And there's also Deep Work, which was recommended by my program coordinator. Deep Work is mostly we are in such a fast-paced society where our brain is formatted by the anti-utopia to think faster. So attention span is 7 seconds mostly nowadays, and Deep Works makes you focus on what you're doing. So basically, I'm very chaotic. I work on assignments for 15 minutes, then I move on to my personal goals, then I get creative about something, I think about it for 30 minutes, all possible outcomes in my head, how is it going to pan out, then if something triggers me in an assignment, but what is shampoo soap, for example? So we had an assignment about market research about it. I actually went for 2 hours looking how shampoo soap are made, how it's done, what's the history behind it, who started. I didn't have to do all that, but I get so intrigued that my creativity, my curiosity drags me somewhere else. So Deep Work is about you focusing really on the purpose of a task, or also how to focus on a particular hobby, sticking to it as well. So those are the 2 books which I have on the shelves waiting for me to eat them alive. And but that's mostly, you can sense my kind of books. It's very much into becoming a better human every day, a better person. So I love self-development books, but they can be pretty much, if you go too intense into them, you kind of get that sense of always wanting to improve and not satisfied of who you are. So I always say to consume self-development books with moderation, because people get so much, oh, but I want to become better, and it becomes an addiction, like it's good that you want to become better, but also enjoy the present moment of who you are also. And that's the two books which I have on the shelf right now. How about you, Tiffany?
I'm a fantasy reader. I mean, I don't have that much time to like read right now, but I do love fantasy books. I've read all the Lord of the Rings, and I've read lots of different fantasy books. I do like sort of historical fiction as well. Like a Boy in the Striped Pajamas is a favorite of mine, and Slaughterhouse-Five is like a book we had to read in high school, and everybody was like, this is boring, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever read. So I'm big into that kind of stuff as well. I do occasionally read self-development books, mostly just to like keep myself in line, like in tune, I guess, with who I am. So I do read a few of those, but they're not my main.
Like the self-development books are mostly, you need to check the author also, what their background, because sometimes they try to push an agenda which they have as well, and books are such good ways to format the brain of people into utopia. And so because some people are very influential into their dialogue, into their writing skills, that this is the truth which I'm going to believe in, and this is something which can be very daunting for people who are like, I'm someone who uses like common sense a lot, but hey, do I feel like I'm getting into that or not? But yeah, anyways, coming to books, Alisa, how many books have you read till now?
I don't know. I remember that last year I've read like 52 books, something.
52?
Yeah.
It's one each week.
Pretty much.
How do you do that? How can you read?
I had a long flight to Canada, okay? Yeah. I was flying here for more than 9 hours, like in total. So yeah, I had a lot of time to read. And I also had a quarantine for 2 weeks. I had a lot of time to read.
And so how do you and now with your course and also volunteering for a podcast, what's your pace of reading? So is it still like at a book every week, or is no?
I'm reading way slower now. Yeah. Mostly because it's for some reason it's harder to concentrate now. I get distracted by everything. I'm trying to avoid it. I'm trying to make a habit again to read at least like 20-30 minutes per day. That's a bare minimum. But it's hard. It's hard.
Well, I guess Deep Work is a good book for you, if I can recommend.
I think so.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much a slow reader. So what advice can you give me to read more? How to get into really because I believe it's an excuse not having time. How would you say hey, Sean, you can read faster by doing this and that? Or what tips would you give to people who want to read books?
I have one tip. It's just to make it a habit. To read like 15 minutes per day. You definitely have 15 minutes.
I definitely have 15 minutes.
I'm pretty sure everybody has 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can spend this 15 minutes in reading. And just every day. And it's going to build a habit.
Yes, ma'am. I will. So now moving on to what you guys, a bit of a background of what you've done in the past. Tiffany, it was amazing. Like when you told me you went from journalism to nursing, it's wow. So it doesn't seem like, for me, I'm switching from hospitality, basically luxury resort hotels, to digital marketing. So it's basically they can be assimilated together in some ways. So, but for you, journalism to nursing. So why the change?
Oh, that's a big story, but hopefully you guys will like to hear it. So when I left high school and went to college, I felt like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was good at photography and I enjoyed it. And so I kind of applied for programs that were adjacent to photography or like fine arts photography. I didn't get into my first choice school, which was Sheridan College in Toronto. So I got into the photojournalism program at Loyalist College in Belleville. And I was like, okay, this is fine. I will go and do this program. It'll be great. And I completed the program and worked in journalism for about 6 months and realized that I really didn't like it. People are kind of mean to journalists, and it just wasn't engaging my passion anymore. And I felt like it was turning something that I loved into something that was too much like work. And I really didn't like that. So I kind of quit journalism. I did it freelance for a little while, kind of on the side. Started getting into more like different photography jobs that were less about journalism. Like I worked for a school portrait company for a little while. I worked at the Sears portrait studio before Sears closed. I don't even know if you know what Sears is. It's like a department store. It doesn't even exist anymore, so don't worry. And then I kind of slowly transitioned into doing unrelated jobs, and I ended up getting a job at a family doctor's office, and I worked there for about 6 years. And the longer I worked there and the more I learned about the medical field, the more I was like, oh, this is where I want to go. Like, this is where I'm meant to be. But I just got to the point where I felt like I couldn't do as much to help other people in my current position as I wanted to do. So I was like, I got to figure out where I want to go from here. But I knew that healthcare was where I wanted to be at. So I decided that I wanted to go back to school for nursing. My mom is an RPN, which is a registered practical nurse. And so I thought about all the different options that I could go. I even considered medical school briefly, but I'm like, God, I'm way too old to start medical school. We're not doing that. So I decided to go to school for nursing, and I'm really glad that I made that choice. I've really been enjoying it. It's really sparking my passion and my desire to help other people. So it's been a really interesting journey, but that's how I went from being a journalist to being a nursing student.
And what were the signs that really I guess you were like in a questioning phase, trying really, because you say like you don't want work to feel like work, to be more something you love. And during that questioning phase and multiple jobs you were doing, what to you was like, oh, nursing is the one I like the most? What were the signs which were?
Yeah, so like I said, I worked at a family medicine office. I was a clinical assistant, so I worked as a secretary, but I did some other like jobs on top of it. And I would find myself going home at night and wanting to look up like, oh, I heard about this really cool disease today. Like I would go home and look it up. Or like I'd be in the middle of the day memorizing the different names of a medication, like generic and trade names of medications. And over time, I started to become a lot more familiar with it. And then I started listening to what the nurses at work were talking about and like how they were approaching their patients and how they were having these conversations. I'm like, that's really interesting. So I think that when I realized that I had an interest in everything that was going on at work, outside of work, I was starting to like go home and look things up. I was like, oh, this is great. And I've always had a passion for helping other people. I'm a compassionate person. I really enjoy the satisfaction that I get from helping other people. And so when I was able to sort of help people within the capacity of my job, it would make me feel really good. I'm so glad that I got a chance to help that person. And I was like, what else can I do to help people? And those were kind of the signs that spurred me to say, like, I need to be thinking about where I go from here.
And we can really sense that, like you're someone who's very outgoing and going to help people. Like when I ask you, for the medieval society, like even like, hey, you can join and everything. I really appreciate that. This is something which I really love about Canada. Mostly people will get you into enjoying something. And we can really sense that particularly from you as well. Even for coming on the podcast as well, which will come later in, like you've been here, like it's your third season ongoing also. Yes. And coming to you, Alisa, so pretty much contrasting, I guess you work on a cruise ship.
I did.
Right? And was it your first ever job?
In Canada, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do particularly in that job on a cruise ship?
So my position was named stewardess, but it was mostly we were serving food, and then we were doing housekeeping of the rooms, and then doing housekeeping of pretty much the whole ship. And that was it.
But how was it like an experience of a cruise ship? Like, it was one of my particular goals one day, being in a hospitality background in luxury, to work on cruise ships. So how did you find that experience working on sea? How is it different?
Well, it's not sea. It was on St. Lawrence Seaway. So it's like lakes and St. Lawrence River. In Kingston.
Oh yeah, well yeah, on lake. Sorry about that. Like, how is it to be on a water body?
It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I will enjoy it so much because where I lived and where I grew up, we didn't have any lakes. We had one small river, and that's it. I didn't see a lot of water. And now I was working on a cruise ship. I was like in the middle of the lake pretty much for like a week, and then I was a week at home. And that was so different. It was something extremely new for me, and it was nice. It was so pretty.
And how was it for you? Like, again, like on the first day you started working here in Canada and in your country, how was it for you?
That was so scary because I'm here with my family, and I was speaking my native language at home, and I was studying online. So I was speaking English like 4 hours per day, and that's it. And then I think my first shift was 7 nights. So for 7 nights, I had to speak only English with people from all over the Canada and from US and from UK. So all of those different accents, and that was so scary.
It must have been really challenging.
It was.
Even as a native English speaker, sometimes other people's accents, I'm like, what? I know we're speaking the same language, but what?
One of the accents which is most difficult for me is the Irish accent and Scottish one, because it's all so tied up, you know, like it's so quick. Like sometimes I need to really focus only on what the person is saying, and it's so hard to understand. But I cannot distinguish between Canadian and American accent. Like for me, it's almost the same. So I really need to. No.
Yeah,
You don't like.
No, there's not that much of a difference. Like northeastern United States to Canada, I wouldn't say there's a huge accent difference. Like if you get somebody from Texas, for sure you're gonna notice. But I don't think there's that much of a difference, honestly. So I think you're doing really well.
and for you, Alisa, speaking back to languages, so was it for you like an enriching experience? It improved your English, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. It was funny because people, a lot of people, I think every shift, at least one person asked me if I was from Quebec, because I was wearing a mask all the time. And for some reason, people assume that my accent is actually French Canadian accent. And I'm like, no.
So any good moments which you remember from the cruise ship job?
I can't choose one particular, but it was so much fun. We had such a good crew. We were all kind of friends. If we finished earlier, if we had like a early evening shift, then we could go out somewhere. And it was nice because you're also living with those people, because you're living on a ship and you're living with them. So you spend 24 hours with them, like 6 days in a row, and that was nice. We're hanging out in the kitchen during service. It was nice.
And so you were living actually on a boat. Yeah. And how was it for you, like, to balance with studies? Is it something like, even it's online, how did you do? Were you studying?
No, I wasn't studying anymore. So I was working kind of full time. It was a co-op term for me.
Okay, all right, that's cool. And speaking of friends, would you say like, do you find this at SLC, you know, meeting people, is it easy again, like for you to?
It's not as easy as it would be if I was in my home country, but it's definitely easier now, because at first when I just started working, it was so hard to just start talking to people in English. It felt weird. And now it's fine. It's almost the same as I would do in my native language.
And speaking of friends, like Tiffany, I guess you made a lot of friends in a very unique context. So, you know, where I'm moving on with this, the medieval reenacting society.
Yeah.
I need to learn more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned it A little bit
beginning.
before, a little bit in passing, but it's called the Society for Creative Anachronism, or the SCA, to make it a little bit easier. It all started when I was visiting my friend out in the East Coast a few years ago. She's my best friend, and she was in the SCA, and she said, hey, I have this like event this weekend. Any interest in coming with me? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That sounds kind of cool. Let's go. So it was like an overnight camping event that was held at like a Boy Scout lodge.
Yeah.
But there's like heavy armored combat, there's fencing, there's archery, there's singing and dancing by the fire. There's like all these cool medieval costumes. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever been to. Like, holy cow. So as soon as I got home from my vacation, I like looked at my local group, sent off an email, and was like, I have to join you. So yeah, I've been doing the SCA, I guess, for probably 5 years now. I've been in the SCA, so it's been a while. I mean, we did have a gap there with COVID. Couldn't really do a whole lot. We did meet online sometimes, and we did some online events, but it's not the same as being able to meet each other in person. But yeah, I like make my own costumes, so that's really helped me develop my like sewing and outfit making skills. So I do that. I do heavy armored combat. I do archery sometimes. Yeah, so it's really great, and I've made so many friends, which is really cool to me too, that I have this new whole separate friend group with like one interest that we all have in common, but they're all so different from each other. You know, we have this like one thread that connects us all, but they're all very unique people with like different lives, and that's really cool to me. And I love finding out more about what they do outside of their life, like outside of the SCA, I guess. But yeah, I've learned lots of new crafts and things, and I've learned a lot about myself, I guess, too, being in the SCA.
What did you... So, just to connect, what SCA stands for?
Yeah, it's the Society for Creative Anachronism. Creative Anachronism is like recreating historical events, but allowing for creative license, I guess. So people are at kind of different levels with how they do their recreation. There are people that are very like, this has to be historically accurate. I will do all the research, like everything down to the minutia of this has to be perfect. And then there are lots of us that are a little more casual that are like, this looks vaguely medieval. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. As long as it looks sort of like I'm trying. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that sliding scale of how serious you are about it. Some people think it's like a very serious thing, and then some people treat it more like a fun hobby that they have, and that's perfectly acceptable there, which is really great. So, and
is there a sort of commitment when you join the SCA, or is it like
it's pretty low commitment, actually? I would say. So you can get a paid membership, which saves you a little bit of money at the door for events and like gets you some additional perks and things, but you can just choose to pay at the door with a non-member fee. Like every time you go, you just sign the safety waiver and give them your money and walk on in. So there's really no commitment at all if you don't want there to be. There are positions that you can take that are sort of like officer positions, a little more administrative, a little more commitment, but that's completely optional and totally up to you. Like I'm the chatelaine for our like local Kingston area group, which is basically the newcomers greeter. Like I'm basically the doorman for the group. So that's kind of cool. And then I run the newspaper for the greater Ontario area. Because, you know, I have experience doing that. So, like, the newsletter for our barony, it's my responsibility as well. So that's kind of fun. But you don't have to. Yeah. If you just want to go once, that's totally cool. So come out if you think it's something that you are cool with.
I will go. I will go to the next one because you said there's one in Ottawa. Yeah. And I would love to go to that as well. I don't know. Alisa, would you love to go to those kind of events?
Yeah, is that something you'd want to try? Yes. Yeah. I'm like roping people in. I love it. Just come join all my hobbies. Yeah, so that's cool. We can talk about that later.
And so do we have all to dress, or we can go like this into it, or is it like...
So for your first event, the only rule is that you have to make a reasonable attempt. So a lot of people wear like khakis and then borrow clothes from somebody else to put over top. Like I brought my dad one time, and he just wore like green khaki shirt, like pants, and then I made him a shirt to throw on over top. It took me like 25 minutes. It was really fast. But
Wow.
we also, because we have lots of members of different varying sizes and skill levels, we have what we call gold key, which is like outfits none of us wear anymore that we can just lend to people. So yes, you have to make a reasonable attempt, but if you can connect with anybody, we can find you something to wear. You don't have to worry.
I will even try to speak in medieval English.
Not a requirement.
No, I just want to experience. I never seen this in my life. Like when I went to do some research, I said, wow, this is just amazing, you know, like seeing people fully into their costumes, enjoying and when so many people are into it, it just feels a semblance of reality. And to just travel, I love ancient civilizations, like, and it for me, I just would love to feel that experience. Try archery, armor fighting, you know, like pretending to be, and it just things which I want to experience. I love when people have costumes. This is the thing which I look forward so much when coming to Canada and USA as well. Like when I was there, was Halloween, the Comic Cons, the cosplays as well. It's starting to build up in my country, but it's a very small level. So, but here it's like such part of the culture. So I really look forward to that. And speaking of costumes, we do have a Halloween event coming up, which is Haunted House on October 20th at the SA. So, hey, join us. It will be on a Thursday at night, so it will be amazing. We will have spooky stuff coming up. It's going to be nasty.
We love spooky season.
Yeah. And now moving on to like, is there a specific stuff you love about medieval era, which attracts you to that particular timeline of humanity?
Yeah, so I mean I love the clothes. The clothes were a big like attracting factor to me. I just think those like fancy outfits are really like super cool. But I also love the like chivalry and the court experience and the like, you know, you've got your king and your queen and the whole experience is so cool. So that was kind of the stuff that attracted me to it at first, and then every time I go, there's just something new and fun, and I never get bored. I never get bored there. So I love that about it. But there's lots of things.
And now my question is, what would your picture us to be? If Alisa was to be into the medieval era, what would she be? And if I was into the medieval era, what would I be?
That's a great question. So the SCA runs anywhere from like the 6th century to the 16th century. So there's an entire 1,000 years there that you can pick from, and you can pick from anywhere in the world that would have reasonably existed at the time that you've chosen. So I see that, like, in my mind, Alisa would be like a late period. So like 1400s, 1500s, very like Venetian. Like I could see you in the big, like puffy sleeved gowns with the like, I can see that on you. And I think you would rock that. And then I kind of have like 2 looks for you. One is like Viking. I could see you rocking like a Viking look. That would be really, really cool. But I could also see you just being like an English courtier in like the 12th century. I could just picture it, like the buttons and the like pantaloons. I could see that happening. Yeah, well, I've got ideas now.
We will definitely figure it out throughout the month how we're going to dress up for that event. I want to fully put myself into that. That's what I'm looking forward. Alisa has been to, I think, one of the best concerts of this starting decade, which is the Harry Styles concert.
Yes.
Speak to us. Just describe the emotions. Everything. I want to know everything.
It was wow. It was something. It was so amazing. First of all, that was the first time I've attended something in arena. It was Scotia Bank Arena, and I've never been in an arena before. And I was kind of far away from a scene, so I could see the whole arena from the top. And there were so many people, and I could see everyone. And then when the lights went down, and everything's like kind of dark, and then you could see the yellow lights from the hallways, from the entrances, and like the flashlights from the phones. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. I just have this picture like in front of me, kind of. It was so beautiful. And also, the feeling that you're dancing with a couple of thousands of people and you're all singing the same songs, and it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's just I don't know.
I can't wait. I can't wait for my first concert, guys. I have to go to one now. I just want to feel like that.
It's really like, like, I guess, like, to really that feeling, like, when, I guess, there's a moment of time where the artist, you see him in person, actually into it.
Yeah.
How was it that you finally see him stepping?
I didn't realize this actually on stage right now. Because I was recording myself. Like, I wanted to see these emotions.
Yeah.
And when I rewatching the video, I was like, wow, I didn't even realize he's actually on stage, because I've heard him start singing. And I'm like, oh, nice. So something's going on. And then I saw him and I'm like, wow. So he's actually there. Nice. I'm actually in the same room with hairstyles. Yeah. Wow.
And this is what's amazing about concerts. I believe when you love a voice, you love a persona of a person you admire, like, even you never met the person, like, just to be in that presence, just like enthralled you in some way. And it's again like that feeling again of having people you're surrounded with singing As It Was, I don't know, together. And since you spoke to me about, I listen to As It Was every day. I don't know, like, I basically listen to it on the radio because it plays everywhere. But I love that song, actually. Like, I love the night vibe of that song. I love driving back home at night, and this suits so well at midnight, driving in a car. I love it. It's a song which I cannot stop listening now. It's thanks to Alisa. So, like, when she told me about the Harry Styles concert, I said, okay, let me go and listen a bit of Harry Styles. I love Watermelon Sugar High as well. So yeah, that's one of my tracks which I love also. But As It Was really pieces me out at night when I do assignments. I just listen to it, and that's amazing thing. I'm glad that you get such an experience of seeing such a mega star. He is number 2 on Spotify streaming. I verified last night. Yeah. He's number 2, and that's just great. And number 2, number 4, somewhere around in the top 10, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
And amazing. And now speaking more about more the podcast, like for you, Tiffany, it's your 3rd season. You're a veteran of the podcast, basically. I'm just at my 5th episode now, recording, and Alisa is just at the 3rd episode now. So how has it been for you all those years being on the podcast, all the seasons? What keeps you coming?
Well, being on the podcast has been it's been a great experience. I've met lots of really cool people that maybe I wouldn't have interacted with because they're kind of out of my sphere of like things that I do. But I've gotten like a chance to talk to Glenn Volbrecht, who's really cool. He's a really cool guy. Like I've gotten to meet all these cool new people, meet all the other hosts, and just like talk about things that interest me, find out more about things I've never really heard about. It's been a really unique experience for me because the last 2 years of the podcast have been like online pretty much exclusively. This is the first time I've ever done an in-person podcast, and I've worked here for 3 seasons. Like this is episode ever, really cool that we finally get to be in the same room and do it this way. This has been really different and interesting. And I just love that like we can give students a place to get information. We can like give students the opportunity to learn about things that they may not have known about before, just like we get that opportunity. And just sharing like passion and creativity and thought. And I think that's a really cool experience.
As an extrovert person, I just love the job. Like, I just love talking.
Yeah, I also just love talking. I don't know if you noticed.
Alisa is more of our balance, yin and yang. So she's the quiet type, but she's so good at finding amazing questions. And she really puts the emotion into like, like, hey, how to know this and that. It's really triggers me. Like, for the sustainability episode, it was amazing because I don't know much, but Alisa has a deep passion for it. So I just received lots of questions. I was like, wow. So
amazing.
Episode is covered. And what is an episode which is special to you to this day?
Oh, like an episode we've had before. I think it was season 1.
Mhm.
I did an episode with one of the other co-hosts that was a music episode, and we talked about like the kinds of music that we like and different songs that are our favorite and the genres that we like. And then we actually each sang with each other. I don't know if you've ever seen
Oh, we
that.
will do that.
Like look back on the episodes, but we got to like sing with each other. It was so cool. It was such a fun little episode. It was just the two of us like talking back and forth. I love big groups of people too. Like I love 3-4 person interviews, but there's something so special about just like one-on-one having a conversation,
True.
right? Like it's kind of cool. But this is awesome too. But that's probably like the one episode that really sticks in my heart.
And how is it for you, Alisa, the first 3 episodes? How do you find it so far?
It's a new thing for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've never worked with so much tech stuff, with like
I
how
agree.
to set up the microphones and the headsets.
Yeah.
Wow, everything's so new, but it also so exciting. I just love podcasts.
Yeah.
I love to listen to podcasts. I think I listen to podcasts all the time, just all the different topics, and I just love to listen to people's stories. Maybe that's why I'm better at finding questions.
Hey, that's one thing which we need to have, because sometimes I blank on some topics, so I'm like, oh. But then I get very curious, so I get very curious about learning. I'm more curious about people, what they do, how did this come up? Sometimes I question myself, who was the person who invented the toothpaste? How did that person come up with, people need to stop brushing their teeth with water, or just, so we need toothpaste. So how did that come up? But that's what podcasts do you listen to, actually?
A lot of different. For some reason, I decided to. Not decided. I actually started listening to podcasts from a true crime podcast.
True crime is the best podcasts.
I love true crime podcasts.
Best. Love me some true crime.
And then
I
I started to listen to some historical podcasts, and then just kind of news. And then I have, I guess, 2 podcasts about like inventions in medicine, how people actually invented antibiotics, like what was the story.
Okay.
And
That's
that
very
is
interesting.
so interesting.
I would love a podcast about that if it was
also,
not student related. And you both kind of can relate to that. You're into like medicine and stuff, and that would be an amazing episode to have you two talk about something related to that.
Yeah. If you can like send me the name of that podcast later, that'd be
It's
sweet.
in Russian.
Oh, dang. I love medical science. I'm all about that. Now I'm gonna have to go look for one in English.
Yeah.
And now my question to both of you: what kind of topic would you love to talk about on the podcast? For you, Tiffany, and for you, Alisa.
That's a great question. I mean, I love these kind of episodes where we just talk about a lot of everything, and like a lot about ourselves. I also just love like fun episodes where we do trivia. Have you ever done like a trivia episode?
I think I'm very bad at
You think you're bad at trivia?
Yeah, so it will be fun. It will be fun
Yeah.
to know how much my general knowledge is bad. And yeah.
Yeah. And now I want to do an episode of us talking about like medical inventions. I think that would be fun. So thanks for that idea, Sean. That one's
Yeah,
going
that's
to
welcome.
burrow its way in.
That's my strong point, finding content. And how about you, Alisa? What are the topics you would love to bring, which students need to hear, and you also as a person, you would love to bring to a podcast?
I've never thought about a specific topic. It usually like it just pops up in my head. I'm like, oh wow, that would be interesting. Like the one about medical inventions. Wow, that I would enjoy it so much.
Okay, we will book it.
Yeah, and
Book
I
it,
don't know.
Sean.
I just love to listen to students' stories of like how did they get to this program? Why did they choose that? What was their background? All this stuff.
That's amazing. And again, thank you so much again. Like one thing which is to be noted, both Tiffany and Alisa volunteer their time. It's very precious to them to just be my co-host, and I'm grateful to both of you to be my co-host for this coming season for the year. And hopefully we can produce more unique content which students will love, because this podcast is for students. Thank you so much again, guys, for this wonderful episode about knowing you. a lot of stuff which I guess you learned about each other, which I kind of knew before, but now I know more into details about you, and it really feels like amazing to have you again. And again, the podcast is available on YouTube, on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, dropping every Tuesday at 2 p.m. And you can follow us also on social media, which is Essay Voice Podcast. And please do subscribe, like, share, drop in the comments what you would love to listen on the podcast. We can talk about it. You want to be a guest on our podcast, just be a guest. No worries. I will dig the questions out of you. They will have amazing questions for you because we're also curious. We want to know everything. Thank you so much for watching. Have again an amazing week at SLC, and ciao ciao, bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.